Hello!
Hi!
Welcome to the very first Unbounded Artistry podcast.
Yay!
This week we're going to be discussing things that eat away hours of your day.
Yes, very dangerous things called
Distractions.
So basically what we decided that we're going to be doing is go through some of the things that we have struggled with, things that we've done to try to fix those, and then things that we're still working on.
Yeah, there's a few things that we're still working on, but we're getting better. We're almost all the way there.
We're getting there. So where should we start?
The first example I can think of is how we used to eat dinner. So we would get out of work late at night and then come home, cook dinner, and we would sit down in front of the TV. That is mistake number one. Because once you start watching Netflix or YouTube, it's very hard to break away from that. Mm-hmm. And even after we were done eating, we'd be like, okay, we'll just watch one more episode and then we'll get to work. And then after that episode or that video, we'd be like, just one more and then one more. And then you look at the clock and it's like, oh, now we got to go to bed because we got to get up in the morning for work.
Yeah, you get into that like comfort zone and then you're feeling relaxed and you don't really find the motivation to stop the videos or whatever you're watching and get up and start doing something productive. So it kind of slows the momentum down, which is a big mistake. Plus we were definitely culprits of the binge watching. So we had to figure out a way to combat that. So what did we do?
So what we did is we no longer eat in front of the TV. So we eat in the kitchen at a table that has no screens around. And in order to keep it that way, we keep the phones away too. Because it's so easy to just like open up an app and start watching videos there or check out your social media. And then it's just basically the same thing, just different room. So we avoided that altogether.
Yeah, so now it's just us in the kitchen, across from each other, just eating our food, having some conversation, which is actually pretty nice because then you get to catch up with your partner or whoever you're having dinner with. And then we took it one step further, and we didn't have cable or anything, but I think a lot of people nowadays usually will have like things like YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, stuff like that. We had Netflix. We still have YouTube, obviously, because we have the internet, but we decided to part ways with Netflix, which is painful, but it was a sacrifice that we had to make because we figured if we don't have that as a temptation, we'll be more likely to be more productive after dinner is actually over.
Very true.
It's actually helped, I think.
I think it's helped a lot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of phones and keeping like the phones out of the kitchen, another thing, and this is probably my problem more than yours, is keeping the phone out of the bedroom. When it's time to go to sleep, I was definitely one of the people that would take my phone to bed with me, and because I'm constantly thinking and like my mind doesn't shut off, it was really easy for me to be like, I just need to research this and I just need to look this thing up, and we have like all of this information at our fingertips, so I'm sitting there like researching all this unnecessary thing late at night, and then I realize I have like 2 hours before work and I haven't slept and the birds are chirping, and yeah, it was bad news. So to remedy that, we actually keep the phones outside of the bedroom. We still use them as an alarm, which a lot of people do, but it's docked outside of the bedroom. We keep them outside of the bedroom, so you have to actually physically get up and shut your phone off to get out of bed. So that helps us get out of bed in the morning a little bit too. But it definitely helps with sleeping because I don't have that like screen in my face that whole time.
Yeah, and getting the proper amount of sleep is very important when you're trying to be productive after work, because if you only get a few hours of sleep the night before, it's going to be that much harder to try to actually sit down and kind of work on something versus, sit in front of the TV and just watch videos or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a vicious cycle. So
yeah.
We had to make some steps to get rid of that too. So I think it was a pretty good move that we made also. What else can we say? Big distractions.
This past summer, we had a lot of distractions with the home renovations because this is like our second year here, and there's still a lot of things to do with this house, but I think we focused a little too heavily on those things this summer.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to balance out what your priorities are, but if you're working on developing a business and trying to reach whatever goals you have to make those things a priority before everything else. But it's a balance because obviously things with your home have to be done, whether it's renovating because you moved into a new house or not, or it's just the regular things like grocery shopping, laundry, cleaning up, that kind of stuff. But it has to be like a balance, and we were definitely way more on one end than the other.
Yeah.
So a lot of our personal stuff, like the goals that we had, kind of got pushed aside because we were focusing so heavily on that.
Yeah, like looking back, I would say we spent like maybe 80% of our summer doing like the stuff around the house versus like 20% of what we wanted to do for like the business and everything. And that's not a very good ratio.
No, not at all. We didn't even get to do anything fun this past summer, which was kind of sad, but it is what it is. It was stuff that needed to get done, but thinking back on it now, we realized a lot of the things that we were doing were DIY projects, which we could have incorporated because we are doing like our YouTube channel, and DIY is a lot of stuff people look for. And it would have been really helpful. Some of the stuff that we ended up learning and things like that we could share with people would have been super helpful if we had hit that record button. But we just didn't think about it until it was too far in the process of whatever we were doing. So we have to get better about doing that, is like bringing the camera with us when we're doing these kinds of things, because it could be useful footage for either creating like a vlog or something, or creating a DIY video, or creating a tutorial, and we just didn't piece that together early on.
It's also a very good thing for things not to do as well, because we encountered a lot of like kind of things that popped up along the way that didn't go very smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, things that could have been executed a little bit better, giving the right information and also keeping it entertaining. We have things that we've looked back on and we're like, we could have done this a lot better, but we're still learning. So it's just things that we're just going to keep continuing to do and improve on as we go forward.
Next up, we can talk about social media, because that's a huge distraction for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Personally, I've had a lot of problems with being on Facebook for a long time, and it took quite a while to finally sit down and be like, you know what, I think I'm gonna just stop using it. And I haven't used it in probably like a year, really. Like every once in a while I'll pop on for maybe like a minute or two, but that's about it. When I used to check it, I would be on there for like hours of the day. And I'm just looking there now, looking back, and I'm like, what was that all for, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I have not been successful in that area. I'm definitely still on Facebook, and I always just want to see like what other people are doing, what things are going on, catching up with people. I guess a lot of it is like that FOMO kind of thing, like fear of missing out, because you just want to see like what's going on and who's doing what. But I mean, we all know like a lot of that stuff is so fake, like it's not real, and it's just like the best picture or the best like snippet of whatever was going on that day in this person's life or whatever. But you still want to see it.
Yeah, it's like everything is like highly edited out of people's lives. They just select like the best parts and they share it, and then it's so easy to become jealous of what you see, or like, oh man, I wish I could be doing that, or my life doesn't really compare to that. But that's a totally wrong way to look at things. Like, you never want to compare yourself to other people.
Yeah, like we always say, like, we're not going to compare ourselves to anybody else except for ourselves. So is the me now doing much better than the me that was from 3 years ago? Sure. So I mean, that's what you can do, is make sure that you in your own like lifespan are improving upon yourself, and like you can't compare because everybody's experiences is totally different.
Yeah,
so.
Everybody's got a different path to take, and like, you know, everyone's got their ups and downs.
Yeah. So Facebook is still definitely a big distraction for me, but I'm working on it. I think it's kind of difficult for us a little bit too because a lot of our stuff is on social media. So it's kind of a balance of like putting our content and stuff out there, and obviously you want to be engaged because you're putting your things out on those platforms, but not letting it get to the point where it's stopping you from being productive.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what is your downfall?
So I kind of switched to being a lurker on Reddit. I don't have an account there. I just kind of just check out like the homepage every once in a while. Sometimes a little bit more than that. Mm-hmm. But I just like it because it gives you like a snapshot of what's going on like that day or that hour on the internet. Because it's just like the top things that people are sharing or upvoting or whatever. And it's just can be just really interesting.
Yeah. I think that's where we get most of our news from is from Reddit. Other than that, like those are our two big ones that like distract us. Like we do Twitter, we do Instagram, Pinterest and stuff like that, but they're not like as heavily like prominent as far as like distractions. So if we can get these other two things to kind of get to that level, we'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
It's difficult though.
It is very difficult.
You always want something to like take your attention. So like we like aren't watching Netflix, so now I'm like super into Facebook or whatever it is.
Or Zillow.
Oh yeah, I love Zillow. I'm such a weirdo, but like Zillow is like my new. It's not even social media.
I know.
It's like I don't. For anybody that doesn't know what Zillow is, it's basically a place where you can search for homes that are on sale. And I just like to look at them all the time, especially for stuff like in the surrounding neighborhoods, because I was like, is our house like comparable to these? And how did they design this house? And is it the same layout? And I'm a weirdo and I really like that stuff. So yeah, that's another distraction that I need to get under control.
You're always trying to improve the home interior design.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like the designer in me. I just want everything to be really pretty and aesthetically pleasing. Mm-hmm. So, I guess speaking of that, that's another distraction is trying to get the environment just how I want it before we start working on stuff. If things are not like in a certain way, I won't like be productive, which is bad. I'm like, oh, we got to clean this first and this has to be set up this way. And if we shoot like a video and something's out of place, I'm like, oh, now we have to start over. Which is not good. It's a big distraction for me, but I guess I have to let the perfectionism like move aside a little bit so that we can actually like do stuff and not let that get in the way. But
if you just keep working to make it like perfect, like you will come up with something perfect, but during that time you could have like worked on so many other things.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that we've been learning is that just improvement is going to come with time anyway. So don't focus so much on perfecting everything right off the bat because it's not going to be perfect and it's just going to improve as time goes on. So something I definitely have to work on.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff you don't really have any experience with until you actually start doing it. Like you don't learn this in college or anything like that. Like it's all stuff that is just recreational. Kind of.
And the experience, I think, is the most rewarding part of it. It's just fun to learn how to do new things and figure out ways to like get your content across. Mm-hmm. It's really nice. I like it. I like it a lot. What else? Distractions. I'm distracted right now.
From what?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. Like my brain just like is everywhere all the time. Focusing is difficult for me. Sometimes when we have to like be really serious and like have to like really produce something, I can't stop laughing, and that's like distracting not only for myself but also for my partner in crime because he has no idea why I'm laughing, and half the time I don't know why I'm laughing.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah. Well, you do the same thing. Sometimes you have those like silly moods too.
I think everybody kind of encounters those.
Yeah.
It's just is always at the time where it's like, oh, we gotta get this done right now.
Yeah, because we're always on a time crunch, it seems.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I guess this isn't a negative, but like spending time with like friends and family can sometimes be a distraction. Just because you only have so many like limited hours where you can actually do work and produce things, especially when you already have a full-time job besides like whatever else you're pursuing. So it can be difficult when you're trying to like split your time between all of those different things. And it's great to spend time with friends and family, but you have to find the balance of like, okay, do I spend time with people, or do I just keep working on my craft, or do I combine the two? So we're getting better at like combining the things that we're doing. Recently we did like a little family trip to Letchworth State Park, and we got to shoot like a video there, and it's actually up on our YouTube channel. So it was like, okay, well, we can do this and we can still like produce something out of it. So we have to get better about kind of combining those different pieces of our life and putting them all together, because I think we compartmentalize a lot of things right now, just because, and we'll get more into this in some later episodes, but like some people in our lives don't really understand what we're doing. So they don't really understand like what a graphic designer does, or like what we're trying to do with the podcast or YouTube and all of that. And it can be hard to kind of incorporate those things, but I think we have to really start pushing that more, because it's part of our life. So it's something that we have to work on making whole.
Yeah, like overall, like I feel like YouTubers in general still have like that kind of like almost like shame to be like a YouTuber. Like but I feel like nowadays it's just so much more prevalent that people are out there vlogging and doing videos. It's just becoming more mainstream, and I feel like it's time to just let people know like this is what we do and this is what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, it's hard because some people still don't really get it. Like they know about it, but to actually see somebody out in public like vlogging, they're like, what are they doing? They're super weird. But I mean, if they see like the resulting product, they'd probably understand it a little bit more, but
Yeah.
it's pretty rare that people will like see it from start to finish.
Oh yeah.
So what else is a distraction? I don't even know. I think that's most of them.
I think we covered what we wanted to for this episode for the distractions. I can't really think of anything else right now.
I think those are definitely the big ones. But those are some of the things that have helped us. I think some of the things that we've done are a little bit extreme for some people, but for what we need to do, that's what we have to do to make things work for us.
I'm sure there's people that even take it up to another notch. Like, there's people I'm sure that like really don't do much like in their free time. It's always like they get out of their job and they just work. But for us, that doesn't really work. We need at least some time in there to kind of relax and just kind of not think about everything else for like at least a few hours.
Yeah, because I feel like we would totally burn out doing it any other way. Like we just can't like let ourselves burn out, but we can't let ourselves like procrastinate so much either, because I think a lot of the distractions are helping us procrastinate in what we're doing, which will be a whole nother topic, but we have to find that like middle ground of like our workflow. We haven't really gotten that nailed down yet. One of the other things I forgot to mention is like the schedules that we try to put together. So some of the things to kind of help us like minimize the distractions is we try to kind of give ourselves like guidelines. It's not like set in stone, like this is exactly what we're going to be doing every day. We tried that and it did not work. But like now we have like some kind of guidelines, like, okay, we want to put out a video this day. We want to put out a podcast this day. This is probably the best way to get things done so that we can accomplish that by the deadline that we've set for ourselves. And then just having those guidelines kind of help minimize the distractions, because you know that these are things that you have to do. So having that kind of helps too. It's just like having those like little mini goals so that you're like, I can't do this even though I really want to look at what's going on Facebook. We have to sit down and like figure out ideas for what we're doing or whatever it is. So I think that's been pretty helpful too.
Yeah, and then when you're making that schedule too, make sure you factor in time to just, relax as well.
Yeah.
Very important.
'Cause you need it. Yeah. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that's it.
I think that's it for our first episode. So if you have any feedback on this episode, or there's any distractions that you're currently working through yourself, or you have any solutions to, please let us know on Twitter at Unbounded Artist. You can find our podcast on YouTube. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Yes. And thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you on the next one. And may your artistry always be unbounded. Bye.
Bye.